Welcome back, everyone. I am really excited about today's guest. He is the founder and CEO of Unity, Mr. Uzrad Lew. The thing that I am excited to hear is that he's got a very diverse background that he's going to tell us about. And I'm excited to hear the path that led him to where he is today. With that, Uzrad, would you give us some of your background, please?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Israel. It was a very different Israel back then, small and I would say pseudo-socialistic. So I grew up in a pretty poor family, but the walls of our tiny apartment, like less than 400 square feet, were covered with books. And if you ask my father, okay, would you buy a piece of meat or would you buy a book? He would buy a book. So me and my brothers, we really got the education was kind of, or is kind of in our DNA. It's very important to us. We are all well-read, and at the same time, we were, wild guys like Israeli kids are. So I went through high school. I joined the military, combat, then intelligence, research. I ended up in the Officers Academy and then had a service of about 10 years. In the middle, I was just like overwhelmed a little bit from the action that I was involved in, special operations and stuff. And I went to UCLA for 2 years. I left like Israel on a leave of absence from the military. Then the chief of staff himself called me back. I was his assistant, two of them for a few years. And later I retired from the military, if you could say. I was a very young guy. And I came back to California and got my MBA here at Pepperdine. And thereafter, for I would say, almost a decade, I was in investment banking. I worked in a small boutique firm in Beverly Hills, but after 2 years and to this day, I'm independent. I never worked in a big bank. I was not really happy about being inside, the pyramids that are always changing. And I did many things. I raised my own fund when, like in the late 90s, I was the top chief financial advisor to the Palestinian Authority when it was established. Very different days than today. Okay. And then I was back into private equity. I ran a cluster of funds, the beginning as an advisor, then as a principal. And this brought me to London, where I lived for 4.5 years. And after we vested the fund successfully, and this fund invested in the Arab world, and we were very lucky to vest it just a few months before the Arab Spring. And then, I was bored. So I fell in love with a lady here in America that is now my wife, my lovely wife. And I relocated back to Los Angeles, which was always like a second home to me because of UCLA and Pepperdine. And for a few years, I was doing a deal here, a deal there, real estate stuff, but I was really bored. And when I'm bored, I'm reading more. And the whole idea, the whole thing of, the inequality, the issue of the wrong, catastrophic, now we can say, spread of capital, the future of capitalism, the impact that it has on the middle class specifically, more than got my attention. I'm not an obsessive guy with anything, but it was the closest in my life that I got to being obsessive. So whatever I could put my hands on, if it's a research paper or, of course, books of thought leaders, Krugman, Stiglitz, Piketty, Dalio, I mean, you name it. Martin Wolf, Robert Wright, I read. And I was amazed because these books are amazingly well written, but they miss one super important thing, and that is that they are not offering a solution. So the catastrophic dimensions of the problem are very clear. It's almost kind of a competition between them, okay? Who will kind of shed light on the catastrophe just from his angle, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the common denominator is that not one of them is offering a pragmatic solution, or at least a way or a direction.
Mm-hmm.
And this bothered me. And I'm not a 25-year-old, entrepreneur. And I'm very happy with where I am because of the perspective, because of the wide angle picture by which I look at things. And I basically, when I kind of digested what I read after a while, I said there must be a solution. And this actually connects me with my past, with my Israeli time, the time that I spent in Israel, because of two things. First of all, because of the way I grew up, Israel was like the epitome of equality at these times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Everybody everyone that you knew was helping somebody. Okay? And not mentoring, but helping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Pulling sleeves up and just go and do things. The second thing that I think connects me to the way I was brought up was that, in my military unit as an officer, 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, when I came into the officer's dining room, I had to go under a sign. And the sign said, the difficult will be done immediately. The impossible will take a little bit more time. And this became part of my DNA as well, my motto in life. And, it has some kind of a wild connotation because many people say, okay, if you are trying to get the impossible done, you must be crazy. Okay, so we are crazy to a point, but the way you do it in Israel is very calculated, based on knowledge, based on research, based on understanding and dissecting the problem and the initial situation to the bolts and nuts level, if not more. Okay, and the same thing goes after. The debriefing mentality or culture in Israel, especially in the special forces units, is beyond what you see. In America, it's also like that. But in Israel, because it's a small country and the operations are much smaller in scale, the debriefing is sometimes, you sit there, like especially when you come back to the military from UCLA, you have a different, your camera lens is now really into wide angle, and you look at this and say, guys, you're crazy. Look at what you're talking. Okay, and look at what kind of technical tiny details you are spending the time debriefing an operation. So I decided that I'm gonna find the solution.
And that's what brought you to creating Unity.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit more about Unity and really what your goals are for it.
So Unity, first of all, started by 2.5 years of research. As an ex-investment banker, I finally understood what it means to invest money in research. A major investment, okay? I was sure that we're gonna finish it, like 10 or 15% from what we have, what I have actually invested. But it was definitely the right thing to do, and we created a very flexible vision, but at the same time, it is founded on statistics, on numbers, on interviews, on research conclusions that are totally scientific. And what we learned, bottom line, is that the main problem that causes, okay, at the core actually of the financial disintegration of the middle class, in America and also in other countries, stands financial illiteracy. And financial illiteracy, when you look at it, okay, it's not really important how it happened. It may be important later on, but when you're trying to find a solution, it is there beyond any statistical doubt. There's no issue of margin of error, because the numbers that brought you there are 80% probability, 85% probability, 95% acceptance in a poll, numbers that are like crazy. You don't see them usually. And that means that the problem is really like, the magnitude of the problem is really problematic. Now, that's before you look at the consequences and see that it basically takes us to almost any facet of our life. It impacts everything we do for generations, including the government, including corporate America on the higher echelons, but also, the blue collar worker in Wisconsin, or the professor or the faculty member in UCLA. They are all impacted by it severely, constantly, every day of their lives. And we also learned one more thing, that there is an inherent conflict of interest between the financial services companies and the members of the middle class, because they are focused not on helping the client, but on selling their products. And when this is it, then of course it implies that you are eventually, you are going to kind of, employ strategies that at the end will push a product into the throat of the client. So it's all about the level of resistance. So then I train my salesman to be a little bit more sophisticated psychologically, use more, advertising, questionable techniques. Social media, became part and parcel of it. So we said, listen, we have actually two missions. One is to close the knowledge gap. Second, is to kill the inherent conflict of interest. So the system should be focused 100% on the client. Could be even defined as a representative. We like to call it the guardian angel. And this is when we also understood that to put a human being there is a big mistake, because we want somebody who will stay with us forever, will never be fired, will never be tempted to leave to another job, will never be promoted, will never be sick, he will be with, that's only AI. And we started talking about machine learning, AI, way before OpenAI, AI was really famous. And we met, and after I put together the first team, we met with many experts in the field. Some of them are now multimillionaires because they became, heads of development teams in companies like Entropy, like even Lovable in Sweden, and so on.
Yep. And
the first mission, which was to create the guardian angel, was a huge challenge because of two things. First of all, how do we get you going? Well, how can we actually get to a point where you trust us? And the second one, we understood from many different angles that Education has nothing to do with it. Why? Because, I mean, traditional education, okay, extracurriculum classes. Because when you are part of the middle class nowadays, you don't have time for this. You are under extreme levels of stress, mainly financially, but this translates into emotional stress, into psychological, into even more than psychological, kind of almost pathologic stress. Okay?
Yeah.
And not only that, 30% almost of the American middle class are either looking for a second job or are already working in a second job. So imagine now the stress where the American dream is running away from us, disappearing. But we still want it. We want the house, we want the security, we want to kind of have more kids, we want to educate them, we want to keep ourselves healthy, okay? We want to take care of the elderly. I mean, we are stretched to a point, the middle class is now stretched to a point that it has been never, ever witnessing since the middle class, was kind of created in 2 centuries ago. So what we understood is that we have to concentrate on becoming the immediate helper of the middle class member. And this is how we create Revo. Revo is an AI master. He talks any language you want. He understands financial issues to the core, and he's learning and he's becoming smarter and smarter by learning from the people that he meets and talks and helps, and also by being updated. And we update him, not, he doesn't need to be updated knowledge-wise, but we update him, by basically creating satellite technologies. Like psychometrics, like infrared camera, like body language screening, like stuff that is very important. And this is when we created the MRY. I know it sounds like MRI, and for a reason, intentionally. And MRY stands for Meet the Remarkable You. And the MRY room is actually in one of our locations. We are a brick and mortar company. So you will be able to work with us online, from home, but there are certain activities that you'll have to do in our location, including the first meeting with Revo. So imagine that you are coming into a room, an amazing room. Everything in the room, it's not only architecturally beautiful and practical, but the most important thing is that everything there, lighting, climate control, seats and furniture, is directed at one thing: to relax you, to reduce stress levels when you are coming into the room. And in the room, you are meeting Revo. Revo is a basically 70 to 75 inches screen. A touch screen, big. The right-hand side is yours. You can stand up and do things there. The left side is Revo, and the meeting starts. And the meeting is voice activated. And Revo is, like my CTO loves to say, that when people ask him about Revo, he's like always like, Revo, let me tell you, excuse my French, Revo is a smart motherfucker. So what he does, he basically, first of all, he listens to you, and he's an amazing listener. And of course, through known AI technologies, we did not invent it. We kind of improved it in a way. He basically, first of all, digests the information and start mapping it. And then he becomes active, okay? He knows what to ask you, okay? It's not fully scripted, but there is a basic script. Because, at the end of the day, there is some information that he has to have if we want to call the meeting successful. And the amazing thing about him Revo is never going to have feelings. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, and we analyzed it with the best experts for a few years, we got to a conclusion that when you and I, okay, are saying, he's a caring person, she is a loving person, okay, most of this impression or perception is built on the fact that she pays attention to you or he pays attention to you. Okay? He shows you that he's caring about what you say. How does he or she do it? Simply by reacting to what happens in the room. Okay? So if you are held back, if you stop talking, or if your temperature goes, 5 or 0.1 up, okay, it means that you are through some kind of an emotional fluctuation. So we immediately change into a different script and ask you in a very caring voice, slowly, okay, is everything okay? Did I say anything wrong? Do you want me to repeat? Do you want to take a second, maybe have a sip of water? Okay, stuff like that. Of course, there's also a passive side to it because Revo can detect lies. High probability, okay? So he basically, in a situation like this, he will repeat the question. He will ask you if you're sure, or if you want to think about it, maybe, it will come back to you in a different way. So bottom line, if you talk to Revo, you're going to be amazed, and I'm sure there are going to be people who will say that, Revo has feelings. You know what? He definitely feels better than my average insurance agent, okay? Who has, the whiplash above his head. Sell the product. If you don't sell the product, no commission. And sell this product because this is the product we want you to sell now. Has nothing whatsoever to do with the client on the other side. Okay? It's like a doctor when he sends you to a test because he cannot make any decision. So the same thing happens here.
Yep, and I think there's a certain inherent advantage to being able to remove emotion from many financial decisions, whether it's from the advisor side or whether it's from the client side,
I agree.
because emotions can lead to very bad decisions.
I totally agree, but at the same time, we cannot ignore the fact
No.
that on the other side, okay, the important side, the client side, or we call him the community member side. We don't want to call them clients. So the community member, okay, he is going through emotional fluctuations. An average member of the middle class in America faces 40 to 50 financial events every year. Okay, the vast majority of them, over 70%, are tactical in nature. So in most cases, he has the capacity, the capability to resolve them by himself. Okay? However, 20 to 25 of them, maybe 30% of them, are strategic in nature. So he's totally intuitive there because he lacks the knowledge. He doesn't know. He doesn't have any toolbox. Okay?
Right.
And the toolbox that are offered now in the market are again a sales machine, like Robinhood, like SoFi. These are great things, but they are focused on one thing. You are going to buy what I am trying to sell to you, okay? And don't ask questions, and for sure, don't even try to come to him and say, I'm not sure that it fits me. How do you know? How do you know? We are changing this situation totally. It's not a disruption. It's a paradigm shift. Because imagine that you're offered a financial service or product, and the first thing that you do is like to your insurance agent, to your retirement insurance agent, to your estate planner, and you say, okay, send me your proposal, and you pick up the phone or your email or your mobile smartphone, and you're simply sending this to Revo, and you call Revo, and you tell him, I got this and this and this, I don't know what to do. Revo, the first thing that he does, the minute you talk to him, he sees your MRY results. Imagine a big kind of, imaginary map where he sees Rick, multidimensional, from your education, your family structure, to how much you're making a month and what are your expenses, everything, okay? And he knows through ratios to also make sure that he understands the way things relate to each other, which is super important. So some of your expenses, okay, are very kind of, asymptotic. They will remain like this for the rest of your life. Like, for an instance, God forbid, a special need, a kid in the family, or a disease in the family. This is something that you have to live with. You are being promoted, you're not being promoted. This thing, unless you want them to die or to be taken away from you, you simply have to do it. So Revo takes care and understand the whole picture to a point that you call Revo, and Revo now is the buffer. He sends you back an analysis of the product or of the service, okay? Number one, he makes sure that it is in sync with your capacities and capabilities. And by this, he's eliminating exactly what you just said, okay? A harsh decision. Why? Because my mother said, or my sister said, or my best friend said that that's the best thing and I have to do it. Probably because he was tempted to do it initially. Now these things are over. You have Revo. Revo is you. Revo is his legion lies with you only. 24/7, 365. Revo is going to also answer calls in 2:00 at night or 3:00 at night. And just to answer, to relate to what you said, it just popped to my mind. A few months ago, 2 months, 3 months ago, I read an executive summary of a research that was done, I think, in the University of Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, that dealt with sleep disturbances. And they are saying, black on white, okay, that 11 to 12% of sleep disturbances are caused by financial events, okay? So what do you do? Okay, your wife is sleeping or your partner is sleeping, you go to the other room and you start watching TV. And you are in many times the movies that you create, the catastrophes that you are witnessing are just making things worse because they push you to make a harsh decision. What happens if you go to the other room in order not to wake up your partner, okay? But you call Revo, as simple as that, 2:00 at night. And you simply tell him, I can't sleep. I don't know what's going to happen. Revo is then, he understands because he asked you, okay, aren't you supposed to be asleep now? What's going on? You have problems sleeping? Are you okay? Are you sick with something? He's first of all verifying the situation, and then he relaxes you. That's what he has to do, get you back to sleep. Not in a way that, it's not lullabies. It's understanding the issue and showing you that there's a way. He later on can connect you to independent financial advisors that are working with us in the same facility, in the same location. He can also tell you that it's a no-no. Like, if you're thinking about spending this amount of money, I'm telling you that as I see your MRI results, it's a disaster. So I just tell you, I don't think it's a good idea. He's not your advisor, okay? But he is your guardian angel.
So I love this concept. Explain to me the challenges or the opportunities or challenges of reaching the right people for this, reaching the people who need it, whether that's partnerships through employers or what are the various channels that you see?
Wow, great question. So, I live, I'm lucky to have over 50 years perspective. Sorry. And it's also a perception because I see life in a different way. But I mean, compared to a 25-year-old founder, okay? And I have nothing against them. They are amazing. And some of them are running between our legs here because my average executive, or board member age, over 40, let's say. Some of them are early 40s. And it's I've chosen them because of that, because I don't think the problem that we are about to solve or at least propose a solution to can really be assessed well by a 25-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the challenge that you're talking about, of course, what happens is that my developers and most of the team who are much younger than me are, of course, pushing for online. They wanted us to be an online company. But as I told you, we are research-based. So I told them, listen, we worked so hard on the data in order to create Revo the right way. So you have to prove to me what you're saying. Why is it better for me to be an online company? I'm not saying it. The online facet of the company is obvious. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an access. Okay? It's all about accessibility. It's not everybody now have to be online. But recruitment through online is a very different issue. And they came to me, they were honest, and they told me, Uzrad, this issue is super complicated and super costly. And they counted to me, they told me that over 2,000 fintech companies closed the doors because of customer acquisition cost. And I just saw now, a fintech company, NASDAQ company, that its share went down 30% in the last few days because of a problem, okay, in the online recruitment, process or platform that they have. And it's all, the algorithm was wrong, okay? The client doesn't give a damn about this. So I started thinking, and again, I went backwards. And I asked myself 3 questions. Where is physically the middle class? Where are they? So still, a very small number of them, very small percentage of them are working remotely. The vast majority of them are going to an office or to a store, to a shop, to a mall. So they are there, they are in the parking lot, they are in restaurants surrounding this area, okay? At night also, they are either spending an hour with the guys after work in a bar, in a neighborhood bar, or going to have dinner in a restaurant or wherever. So they are, if we look at the bottom line, we generalize a little bit, they are in the street. So why should I recruit them online? Why can't I recruit them where they are? Stopping them, offering them some kind of an offer they cannot refuse, okay? And creating also a hub. And the hub or the location, by the way, we also call it Revo. Revo, I'll just tell you a very short story. Our designer went with us to see a few locations when we were studying the issue of the location, of the design of the location. And after seeing 3 or 4 of them in Pasadena, she stopped me when we were just about to get into the next one. And she told me, Uzrad, hold on, I have a question for you. I said, what? She said, Uzrad, when a potential community member steps into Revo, what do you want him to feel? Give me a short answer. Don't start telling me a story now. Okay? So I thought, and I was pretty proud that he came to me like that. And I told her I want him to feel that all of this was built personally for him. The planners, the architects, the plumbers, everybody there was thinking about him. So the whole idea is that you come out of it, whether you became a member or not, or did not become a member, but you call your buddy and you tell him, listen, I'm telling you, you have to come to see this place. Okay? You have to see it. It's something that you cannot miss. Okay? And this is part of the recruitment process, but the recruitment is going to happen initially, for sure, mostly in the street by guys. You know, recruitment in the street is an art that has been in action for more than 100 years. So we're not inventing anything. We will, of course, dress them in a different way. They will have the, mini iPads with them. They will have, they are very, the way of the way they reach recruitment is very modernized, technologically oriented, and so on, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But overall, they are more or less using the same psychology, okay, to get you to our place, have an espresso or a latte or a cappuccino on us, and you're not sitting there and I'm saying, okay, watch the video. Every 20 minutes, 3 times an hour, a huge screen, basically the size of the walls, the length of the walls, is going to go down, and every time you're going to see a different kind of video that goes to different age groups, different demographics, different cultures, and shows you what Revo is. So if you have and you can take a tour, okay, a short tour, and when you're doing that, imagine that in 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, you'll see it twice, okay? So we were thinking, really to the bottom, again, bolts and nuts approach about the recruitment. Now, we are going to be, when we have enough money, you are going to see commercials, you are going to see us very active in social networks. Of course, we're going to be on social media. We're doing it now. We are actually preparing already to do it. But we want, and by the way, there's another kind of facet to it, that I'm coming to you, that I'm not telling you, come to me. Stop all you're doing and come to me. Don't have to stop anything. You're walking in the street. You have some time with your wife or alone to come and have the best espresso in town. I just want to show you something, okay? And if you're not certain, look at the mini iPad, see, okay, a live picture of what's happening inside. So I am sure that our customer, look, we have financial models to it. We are finance people. So I tell you carefully, because we haven't done a pilot yet. We are launching at the end of the year, but I can tell you with high level of probability that our customer acquisition cost is going to be less than 10% of SoFi, less than 5% of Robinhood. Okay? And as my guys, my financial team is telling me, okay, Uzrad, the advertisement company that will come to you and say, take 30 seconds on the Super Bowl, is probably going to do the biggest mistake in their lives when coming to you, because you're just going to tell them, go away. And that's exactly how I see it, because I can put this money to use in a much better way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that technology is doing for us, is allowing us to reach a much broader audience with less per contact cost. And essentially what you're talking about is education. And when it comes to education, reaching the most amount of people, is your best bet to give them the choice.
Yeah. It's a different kind of technology. Okay, it's more, we call it the lovable technology. And that's why when you see our URL, it's www.unity.love and not .com. It's not a gimmick. It's because it all starts there.
It's an evolution.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, neo-capitalism is something, that became a soundbite, but there's no real substance behind it. We are the substance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fantastic stuff, Uzrad. That's
Thank you.
this whole package, your journey from where you started to where you are now, and this whole concept, I think, is a very exciting path. And we're going to be watching your progress through this journey. And
You are already on our email list, so you have no choice.
yeah, no, this is great stuff. Is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap this up?
I want to say two things. First of all, thank you.
Thank you.
And second, I want to, if they are at all listening to me, okay, and I'm sure they will more and more, the millennials and the Gen Zs and other potential community members, because there's no age limit here. Many baby boomers are now facing financial issues that they have never thought they would be, watching these over 60 or over 70 even guys on that are serving you the coffee in Starbucks. You see these old faces more and more. Okay, it's not because they are bored. It's because they have to find a way to bring more income. So, although we are talking a lot about the catastrophic measures, okay, of measurements of this issue, of this problem that we are tackling, I really believe in humanity and in human beings. I believe in love, and I'm telling you, the situation will always be better if we really push it to be, if we really take upon ourselves the dedication, the devotion, the passion, okay, to move things in the right way. We stop listening to anyone who thinks he's smarter than us just because he has $1 billion in the bank. We are smart.
Amen.
It's the smartest middle class America has ever had. So let's do something with it.
If people are given the correct information without bias, people can make decisions.
Yeah, that's the first step. You have to give them more. They deserve it.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
They deserve it.
Great message, Uzrad. Everybody visit unity.love and check it out. See for yourself what all this buzz is about. My
phone number is there. My email is there. We are not having PR people between me and whoever wants to talk to me. Send me an email. I read them all. Sometimes, it takes me a day or two to answer, but I usually, I don't go to sleep before I answer most of them. So just call us. We need you because we don't only need investors. We need people that will later on become part of Unity. And Unity is about to become a movement. It's not just a startup. So feel free to get in touch with me.
Excellent stuff. Thanks again, Uzrad. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.